You might think you've got everything under control, but this week, the universe is going to put your soul to the test. Between eclipses, oppositions, and rare tensions, it'll feel like you're being pushed inward, with no escape. The shadows you've been hiding will resurface. The emotions you've been ignoring will overflow, and the decisions you've been putting off won't be able to wait any longer. This week brings truth to the surface, not the gentle kind that's easy to accept, but the kind that burns, that shows how much you still sabotage yourself, how much you're still stuck in patterns you swore you'd already left behind. With Lilith, Pluto, Mars, Saturn, and the North Node in motion, the question isn't if you'll feel it. The question is, will you align with who you're becoming, or repeat, once again, the version of you that you already know is no longer real? On Tuesday, the Sun in Taurus stands in direct opposition to Lilith in Scorpio. This aspect doesn't go unnoticed. It activates what's been buried: instincts, impulses, desires you learned to hide in order to be accepted. But now, everything is coming to the surface. This opposition lights up a sensitive spot: the conflict between what you try to uphold externally and what your soul still wants to scream on the inside. Lilith in Scorpio unleashes the force of repressed anger, denied sexuality, and restrained courage. She shows you where you're still afraid to access your own power, because you've learned it makes others uncomfortable. And the Sun, staring her down, forces you to face it. Where have you been hiding your truth out of fear of rejection? Where have you stayed silent just to keep the peace? This aspect isn't here to destroy. It's here to reintegrate. It's time to accept your shadows not as flaws, but as essential parts of your personal power. Between Tuesday and Wednesday, the moon moves into Scorpio, and even if there's no official eclipse, the sky behaves as if there were. It's a symbolic, emotional eclipse. In other words, you might feel like something big is happening, even if nothing concrete is going on. It's that moment when everything outside seems normal, but inside, something's quietly falling apart. You might feel an urge to cry without knowing why. Strange, symbolic dreams with people from your past. A sense of being pulled inward, like diving deep underwater. A need for isolation or profound silence. This lunar activation hits directly in your emotional core, and it might show you, gently or intensely, what still needs to die within you, so that something truer can be born. Don't fight it. Let yourself feel. This quiet eclipse might be exactly what your soul has been waiting for. On Wednesday, the Sun in Taurus enters a tense square with Pluto in Aquarius. This square is a collision between the old and the new, between what you want to keep under control and what needs to evolve, even if it scares you. Pluto doesn't ask for permission, it transforms. And when it squares the Sun, it puts pressure exactly where your ego still wants to be right, still wants to stay comfortable, still resists. This aspect will show you where you're clinging to an image that no longer reflects who you are, where your rigidity is blocking the very change you claim to want, where you're still fighting for control when you should be surrendering to the flow. This is a silent but powerful crisis. It doesn't happen in external chaos. It happens the moment you look in the mirror and realize, I can't keep pretending I'm okay with this old version of me. And the choice you make now will determine what continues and what finally has to end. On Thursday, the sky brings one of the week's most profound aspects. Venus in Pisces meets Saturn and the North Node. This isn't just about love, It's about the kind of love that teaches, heals, and chooses. Venus represents what you value, love, and attract. Saturn stands for structure, time, and maturity. And the North Node reveals where your soul is being called. When these three align, the universe asks, are you choosing people and paths that empower you, or just filling a temporary void? This aspect might bring unexpected connections with people from your past, maybe even past lives. Tests of loyalty to yourself in romantic relationships. Necessary endings, quiet but final. A sense of spiritual recognition with someone you don't fully understand, but deeply feel. It's not a light transit, but it's a turning point. You might clearly see what no longer makes sense, or for the first time, feel ready to live something with real depth. This is a moment to look at your connections with more maturity and ask yourself, does this bring me closer to my path or distract me from it? On Saturday night, Mars in Leo opposes Pluto in Aquarius. And this is one of the most intense and potentially volatile aspects of the week. Not because something external will necessarily happen, but because you might end up at war with yourself. Pluto digs, Mars explodes. And when they face off, everything you've been holding in for too long erupts. You might feel irritability for no clear reason, a sense of injustice, an urge to lash out, bottled up anger, tension in power struggle relationships or dynamics of control, clashes with authority figures or with parts of yourself that always try to take over. This is a transit of deep release. The real question here isn't who's right. It's what are you trying to protect yourself from? Because often, beneath anger, there's old pain. And behind rigidity, there's fear. If you can take a breath before reacting, this opposition could open a powerful door to healing. But if you let impulse take over, you might burn bridges you still need. Choose wisely. After a string of intense aspects, Saturday night closes the week with an energetic portal that demands your full presence. You've been challenged on every level, emotionally, with the symbolic eclipse, psychically, with the opposition to Lilith, on the ego, with Pluto, in relationships with Venus and Saturn, on instinct, with Mars. Now all that's left is choice. This week wasn't about finding answers. It was about noticing where you're still repeating, where you're still sabotaging yourself, where you're still numbing out, and more importantly, what do you want to do differently from now on? Because the sky revealed it all. Now, it's in your hands. This week's energy didn't come to comfort you. It came to confront you. And now that all the aspects have played out, Lilith, Pluto, Mars, Saturn, Venus, what's left is silence. But not just any silence. It's the kind that's heavy. The kind that demands a response. The sky did its part. It made you face everything you've been putting off. The shadows you hide behind productivity. The attachments you call love. The old wounds you rationalize but never really healed. The personal power you're still afraid to claim. And now, it's just you with yourself. The question hanging in the air is brutally simple. Will you do things differently? Or will you repeat, just with the excuse that you already understood it all? Because the real risk isn't repeating out of ignorance. It's repeating with awareness. It's living the same pain again, but pretending you're working on it. This week was a spiritual test, and how you show up now determines whether it was just another crisis or the turning point of your story. Now that the raw energy has passed, you need to learn how to stay whole, because the real challenge isn't just surviving the intensity, it's knowing who you are after it. This is when a lot of people self-sabotage. They pretend nothing happened. They try to go back to normal. They try to put back what the universe already shook loose. But if you really want to solidify everything that's been revealed, here are 3 invisible anchoring moves that actually work. Name the pattern you refuse to repeat. Write it down or say it out loud. I acknowledge that this cycle is over. I'm not going back. Give your decision form. The universe understands when you speak with clarity. Create a micro-ritual of transition. It could be lighting a candle, a salt bath, or simply 1 minute with your hand over your heart, breathing with intention. What matters is marking the moment. You're not the same anymore, so act like someone who's already turned the page. Choose silence. Pick at least 1 moment in your day to do absolutely nothing. No fixing, no processing, no rushing. That still space is where the new energy settles into you. Doing this won't save you from relapsing, but it will ground you in the version you're building. You just made it through a week where every planet seemed to challenge a different part of your soul. Lilith triggered the instinct you try to deny. Pluto dug up what you buried. Mars lit up the anger you've swallowed. Saturn and the North Node showed you who and what your soul really wants to walk with. And now at the end of it all, you're still here. Tired, maybe confused, maybe drained, but standing. And that says a lot. What you experienced wasn't just about astrology, it was about growth. It was about reaching the edge of what you could handle. And still having a choice. You might have fallen apart emotionally, might have said things you didn't mean, might have felt fear, guilt, doubt, and still, you're here. And if you're here, you've got power, you've got awareness, you've got space to do it differently. That's the real turning point. Not when everything is clear, but when even in the mess, you choose not to go back to what broke you. If this video wasn't just content, but a mirror, a shift, or a quiet confirmation for you, drop this phrase in the comments. I'm not going back to what broke me. That sentence is more than words. It's an energetic ritual. It's a seal between you and what the sky is trying to build inside you. If you felt all this and want to keep receiving these signals, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, because here we don't follow astrology just for curiosity. We use the sky to evolve with awareness. See you in the next one.